Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to create a WordPress website with wp-env, a tool that's super helpful for local WordPress development. If you're looking for an easy way to set up a WordPress environment using Docker without installing WordPress manually, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. So there are three things that we need to install wp-env. The first one is Docker. And the second one is Node.js and Node Package Manager, because the wp-env is a Node package. And the third one is Git. So for the first one, which is Docker, we're going to the installation page and download the installer for Windows because we're on Windows. Now I will download the installer and we'll wait for it to be downloaded. If you're on Windows, there is a good chance that you need to install WSL or Windows Subsystem for Linux. This is something that Docker requires to be installed. If you don't know what it is or don't know how to install it, there is a documentation on how to install it on Microsoft's website. If you're on Mac, you can also see the documentation on how to install it on Mac here. You can also install Docker Engine for Linux operators based on the documentation that you can see here. For example, for Ubuntu, you can see the codes that you need to write to install Docker Engine in this part. Now the file has been downloaded and I just run the installer. And after that, it needs a system restart. After the installation is done, we need to make sure that the Docker engines are running. After the engines are running, we're all set and ready to go. On Linux, you need to make sure that the Docker daemon is running. Now, to create a website with wp-env, I'm going to create an empty folder and open it with VS Code. You can actually open any WordPress project, any plugin or theme with VS Code and then create a website with that with wp-env. But here we're going to start from an empty repository. The first thing that we need to do is to create a package.json file, which is our package manager file. This takes us to the second thing that we need to install, and that is Node.js and npm, or Node Package Manager. The easy way to install Node Package Manager on your Windows machine is by the Node.js installer. If you click on it, you can see the version and your OS, and then you can download the installer file and install it on your system. Another way to install it is using Node version managers or NVM, which allows you to update your npm and other tools easily. This is their official tool, so if you want to go with this one, it's also a better way. A package.json file is a simple configuration file used for the JavaScript part of your project. It manages the settings, dependencies, libraries, packages, and the project needs. Writing scripts in this file is also an important part of the job. So it's specifically common for the projects that use Node.js. The first two things that I'm going to write in this file are the project name and the project version. You can fill this up with any information that you want. The next part of our work is to install wp-env package. We're going to install this package locally, but you can also install it globally. The command that we are writing is npm install WordPress env, and we're also going to save this in the development environment. If you don't know about the development environments and other environments that we can define in the package.json file, you can read the documentation. Now we wait for our package to be installed. After the package is installed, you will see that a dev dependency is added to the package.json file. One more important thing that we need to do is to add wp-env to the list of the scripts that we have in the package file. Now, with this added to the file, we are able to run wp-env commands. There is another important file that we need, and that is wp-env configuration file. As you can see in this JSON file, we can write different things like the WordPress core version, the PHP version, the list of the plugins that we can have, the list of the themes that we want to have, the ports and configuration, and the mappings, which is an important part. Now we go ahead and create our first parameters in this file, which is the core version of WordPress. We pass null, or we can pass the string latest, or we can pass a specific version. We can do the same thing for the PHP version as well. So if you pass null or latest, it will install the latest PHP or WordPress version in our environment. Now on our terminal, we need to just run wp-env start, and after a while it'll download the WordPress file and it will configure your website. This will take a while since it needs to download all the Docker images and WordPress files. After the process is finished, you can see that you have two new websites. One is for development and one is for tests, and they are in different ports. If you click on each one of them, you can see a different website. If you want to log into this website, the username is admin and the password is password. In the admin area, you can see that this is a plain website with no default plugins and themes or any other content being added to the website. The only thing that you can see is the default Hello Dolly post and the 2024 theme, which is the default theme. Now let's add a plugin to our environment. What we need to do is to add a plugins array to the wp-env file. And after that, we need to pass the plugins to this array. The options are relative path, absolute path, a GitHub repository, an SSH repository, or a zip file. So for the zip file, which is our easiest option, we can use the WordPress repository files. Now let's go to one of our free plugins and grab the download URL for this plugin. I'm just going to copy the link for this plugin and paste it in our plugins array. So as you can see, this URL has a version to it, 1.4.6. I can delete this version and it will automatically download the latest version, or I can specify the version that I want. If you want to install your plugins and themes from a folder in your working project, all you need to do is to create a folder for them and somehow save your plugin and the theme that you want to install in these folders, and then just pass the relative path to the plugins array. But for now, we're going to start an environment with the plugins from the repository. So we run the wp-env start command. It'll restart our environment with this plugin. Now, after this process is done, we're going to check our tests environment again to see if the plugin is installed on it or not. Now, as we can see, our free plugins installed successfully. There's one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is using the plugins and themes parameter for wp-env JSON file in your plugins and themes directory. So this is one of our plugins that we have this wp-env file, and as you can see, we have passed this dot to the plugins, and this means that when we run the wp-env, it will run the WordPress environment with the current plugin that we are working on. It's a great practice to create a staging or test website for your plugin or your theme. One other thing that we need to mention is the use of mappings. We use mappings to map our WordPress directories to our local directories. Now we will add it to our wp-env file. Now, what I'm doing with this file is that I'm mapping the WP content upload directories to my local WP content upload directories. So in order to do this, I need to also create this uploads directory in my project. Now I'm going to add this folder. So after creating this folder, don't forget to restart your environment, and then to check if this works, go to your media section and upload a new file. And after uploading this file, it should be also visible in your project. Now we're coming to our VS Code to see if we have the images here as well. If we check this folder, we can see that all the image is also visible here. One more important thing is that all the WordPress instances that you create with wp-env come with Composer, PHP unit, and also wp-CLI installed on them. So we can use this wp-CLI or any other tool with simply running wp-env run, the environment tool, and then the command. We're going to see an example right now. On our terminal, I'm going to write a command that takes an export of our database for the development environment. I'm going to run CLI wp-db export, and the export file will be in the wp-env folder, which is probably on your user root folder. Now there are other commands that you can use in your environment, and you can run these commands on different environments. Right now I'm running this command on the test CLI. So basically when I'm running test CLI, I'm using this command on the test environment. And when I'm writing just CLI, it's the development environment. With this command, I'm installing a plugin on our website. Now we wait for this plugin to be installed on our environment, and then we check the website to see if this plugin is installed. Remember that we need to check the test environment. Now, as you can see, this plugin is installed, but it's not activated. If you also want to activate the plugin in the same command, all you have to do is to add the flag to the command. You can find more about these commands in the wp-CLI documentation. We can also run another command, like getting a list of the users. So these are just basically WordPress CLI commands that we're just running here to demonstrate the use of them in the WP environments. And it's going to output the list of the users, as you can see. The next thing that I want to talk about is the use of the different environment variables and the config parameters. As you can see here, I am defining the config for test environment separately. So I'm telling our environments to turn on all the WP debug things only for the tests environment and not for the development environment. And now if I restart the environment, I'm going to see the errors are on the website if there are any, and also all the log is going to be stored in the WP debug log file. Now you can use this to actually have different set of plugins and themes on different environments. For the development environment, I'm going to have this plugins, as I'm writing it here, which is our free post data table plugin. And for the tests environment, I'm going to have a different plugin, which would be Contact Form 7. After this, when I restart the environments or restart them, I will have different plugins on each environment based on the parameters that I define here. Another useful command that you can use is the wp-env logs command. This will print out all the PHP and Docker logs that can be useful for debugging the errors on your environment. wp-env has a useful command for cleaning your environment of all the data that you have created on your website. So I'm going to write a post here, and then I'm going to run the clean command. Remember that you can pass also the environment to this command. The environments are tests, development, or all. The default environment to be cleaned is tests. Now I'm going to clean all the environments. And after this process is done, I will no longer be able to see this post. And as you can see, this is the default WordPress post here. The next thing that I want to tell you is about seeing the list of the containers that Docker is running. This is more of a Docker command, not a wp-env command, but it's good to know that what containers are right now in your computer. And one of the last commands is wp-env stop, which will stop your environments, and you can restart them anytime you want. You just need to not delete the containers that contain the files. And if you want to also delete the containers and everything, the command that you need to run is destroy. This is good if you want to start all things from scratch. There is a confirmation and you need to confirm it, and then you can delete all the files. So this was an introduction and a guide to create a development or a staging website with wp-env. This is really useful for testing and development. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions.